Our Murrow Award for Excellence in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Culture Club.
KUAM News headlines are presented by Calvo's Insurance, protecting Micronesia for 85 years. Matson, celebrating 25 years of commitment to Guam, Micronesia, and the CNMI. Cars Plus Finish Line Express is now open at Cars Plus in Mighty. The state-of-the-art car wash is now open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it. And King's Restaurant, serving your local breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites for over 45 years.
Ahead on KUAM News Primetime.
A tragic death of a baby boy, his family in mourning. I'm Julianne Hernandez with the story, speaking with his mother.
From mold, rodents, fleas, and asbestos, a bill requiring the Guam Department of Education to be more transparent about what's lurking behind classroom doors. I'm Mitsuki Hariyama with the story.
Joint Region Marianas meeting with Governor Arnold Palacios amid rising geopolitical tensions and increased training in Micronesia. I'm Tomas Manglona with the details coming up.
Hafa day and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Primetime. I'm Destiny Cruz. Thanks so much for joining us. His name was Mark. The 5-month-old baby boy was found dead inside a Tumuning apartment unit Thursday afternoon. The police investigation ongoing now more than 24 hours later since the tragic discovery. Julian Hernandez with the update, speaking with the child's mother.
He was the light of her life and only 5 months old.
People that lost their child, and I never knew how it felt until yesterday. I'm still trying to process this.
Lorraine Seguero, heartbroken after her baby boy Mark is found lifeless inside her Tumuning apartment. Guam police responding to the RC apartments Thursday afternoon. Seguero recently moved to this part of the village with her husband Mark and their 5 children after the family was homeless. Her baby boy named after Dad. In the final moment she last saw her son alive, Seguero says she was working one of her 2 jobs. Her husband was home.
This moving, this everything has been so exhausting. Him staying up late at night, watching everybody. I feel for him. I really do, because he really, I can honestly say that he really took my responsibility. He took over.
A busy time for this family. Seguero recalling coming home around midday Thursday. Her husband was resting, saying the recent move impacted his health.
I was working. I came home. I was working at a graveyard shift. Then I came home. I came here for a brief moment, and then I left again to go back to work.
But it's in this instant that Seguero's fears became a reality.
When I went towards my baby, I was going to pick him up just to bother him for a little bit, just because, I haven't seen him since I got to work that morning. When I turned him around, his face was already blue.
Seguero rushed to wake up her husband and call 911. Her husband performing CPR while she was on the phone. But it was too late. Baby Mark was gone.
Even when the cops were questioning me, I told him, I said, go ahead and question my kids. Ask them whatever you want to ask. There's nothing to hide. There's really nothing for us to hide.
This family now left puzzled over their baby boy's sudden death and grieving the loss. Seguero also trying to help her husband cope.
And he was upset, and he's like, we just lost our baby, and they're saying foul play. What's foul play? And I said, it's okay, because we both know the truth. We know, and everyone that we know knows that you're a good dad. You're a great dad.
The local police department's criminal investigation section was called to the scene. An autopsy to confirm how little Mark died is pending. Julian Hernandez, KUAM News.
Now to a burglary investigation in Dededo caught on camera. The homeowner speaking exclusively with KUAM after one of the 4 burglars is captured. But get this, the incident all unfolding as the victim and his new bride were getting married. Nick Delgado has the story.
This video is capturing the morning of March 31st, a day that was supposed to be filled with happy memories for Dededo resident Adrian Tomeldon and his new bride.
This wedding is we can't forget this wedding.
An unforgettable day.
We did the ceremony, and then after that, we just went to go do like a couple of photos and stuff like that. And we went to go buy lunch, me and my wife.
But as he and his now wife Regine were tying the knot, their home off 8th Street in the Pico subdivision is targeted by 3 burglars. It wasn't until after the ceremony Tomeldon found out something at home wasn't right.
And I saw my gate to where my birds were at, like open, and I remembered that before I left the house, that's where I last came from, and I know I closed it. Mm-hmm. So I went inside my farm area, mm-hmm. and I saw that birds were missing. So I went closer to take a look. They were on the tie cord, and so I looked at the tie cord, and I was like, so I got jacked because the tie cords were like cut.
The theft not a first for him, which is why he installed this home security cameras. The footage showing the moment 4 men pulled up in a dark gray Toyota Highlander, walked around his property, and loaded up the car with more than $3,000 worth of Tomeldon's belongings.
I saw like 4 guys coming out of the vehicle. They took they took 4 birds, my backpack blower, leaf blower, mm-hmm. My welding hoses, electrical wires.
He quickly reported it to Guam police, but also had to juggle finalizing his marriage license with public health. On his way home, they spotted the car and followed it around the village until police showed up and took over. Tomeldon then going to the Dededo precinct to wait for officers to tell him if they caught the guys. Officers then saying,
and he told me, like, man, your birds they already swapped your birds for the dope.
Authorities were only able to recover his welding hoses, investigators learning his birds traded out for methamphetamine. By Saturday morning, the burglar wearing gray in the surveillance footage was identified as Johnson Naich, facing charges of theft, burglary, and drug possession. The 3 others remain on the run. Tomeldon hopeful the community can help to identify them through this video.
I hope, I was looking at the news and, the new AG, I hope, what he said about, taking stuff out the streets, the drugs, the crimes, all of this stuff. I hope he, follows through with it.
While the newlyweds are more vigilant since the burglary occurred, they also aren't letting it stop them from starting their new life together. If you have information about this burglary, you are asked to call Guam Police or report it to Guam Crime Stoppers. Nick Delgado, KUAM News.
From mold, rodents, fleas, and asbestos, and schools receiving a D rating from public health. We've reported on numerous health and safety hazards at the Guam Department of Education schools, informing the public on what's lurking behind classroom doors. Now a bill proposed by the Education Committee Chair calls on GDOE to be more transparent about the ailing school conditions. Mitsuki Hirayama has more.
A bill that would require the Guam Department of Education to be transparent about health and safety hazards in the schools.
We had the flea infestation at D.L. Perez and the rodent issues at Simon Sanchez and the mold problems at Southern High School. Also, there were classrooms at George Washington High School that had asbestos in them, right?
During a public hearing Thursday afternoon, Senator Chris Barnett saying he learned of these issues only after touring the schools as the Education Committee Chair.
I don't think that senators should have to tour the schools for the public to know about the conditions in them. And again, that's kind of the gist of this bill.
Bill 44, or the Safe School Facilities Act of 2023, requires the GDOE superintendent to come up with a plan to notify the public of and address the health and safety hazards at the schools, such as infestation, hazardous material, or structural issues. The measure receiving supportive testimony from Guam Education Board Vice Chair Maria Gutierrez.
Monday there was a training, and I went to a water fountain at the school, and when I saw the water fountain, I had to hold my tongue, because how could the water fountain not be clean? I support the bill, and as a private citizen, like I say, and as a grandmother and great-grandmother, I want to make sure that this is a Bible for the Department of Education to follow.
The measure also receiving support from other lawmakers present, but Senator Tello Taidagui questioning how the measure would be enforced.
We give them the, DOE, the authority to do something like this, but what if they don't do it? How do we enforce it?
Also discussed during the hours-long public hearing were Bill 42, which would require an automated external defibrillator in all schools, and Bill 62, which would align the charter school law with a Supreme Court ruling to allow religious schools to apply for the charter school process. The measures also receiving supportive testimony. Matsuki Hirayama, KUAM News.
Also, to ensure schools are properly maintained, Senator Joe San Agustin introduces a bill allowing GDOE to hire retired facilities and maintenance personnel. While some fundamental changes may be in store for the Guam Visitors Bureau, Tourism Committee Chairperson Amanda Shelton has announced a roundtable meeting next week to review GVB's enabling law and board policy. This follows an oversight hearing yesterday that aired out some long-standing tensions between management and the board. Vice Chairman Jesse Lujan welcomes the move.
For $29 million, they don't really realize.
The conclusion is how do we make things right and everybody is on the same page, and again, that we're all in concert in government and accountability and transparency. Because again, there's we this is the people's money, and we and the agency and people that manage the agency and board of directors all have to be held accountable.
President Carl Guterres has been at odds with the board over who controls funding and has also called out various directors over conflicts of interest. For years, large companies were able to buy individual memberships for employees and use their proxy votes to secure seats. GVB cites the example of United Airlines and PHR Kencor, the owner of several major hotels, which together account for more than 50% of the vote. Lujan says he supports Senator Tello Taidagui's repeated efforts to change that.
It's fairness and equity, for the smaller guy the small guy and the big guy can be in the same room, and either one of them can be a board member or a chair. They have equal opportunities, and not because one person or one company has a bigger financial backing than you.
The roundtable meeting to consider possible changes to GVB's enabling statute is scheduled for next Friday, April 14th. And we've got more news in a moment, but first, did you know you can watch our exclusive local channel right now on Peacock by visiting peacocktv.com/local. We've got that QR code for you on your screen as well. Keep it here to KUAM.
Day Fresco Fridays on KUAM News, presented by Fresco Clothing, original custom design apparel of Guam and the Marianas, located in Hagåtña, just across from the Gani Shopping Center.
The wait is over, Guam. The all-new state-of-the-art car wash is now open at Cars Plus. Introducing Finish Line Express, open 7 days a week. The all-new cashless drive-through car wash is also the largest car wash on island that can accommodate vehicles such as lifted Jeeps and full-size pickup trucks. Just roll up, pick a wash, insert credit card, or show your EverWash app, and roll through. Plus, power vacuums are available to clean the interior. Show your vehicle some love today at the all-new car wash at Cars Plus in Maite. Open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week.
Welcome back to Primetime. Rear Admiral Benjamin Nicholson led a team of Joint Region Marianas officials for his first sit-down meeting with CNMI Governor Arnold Palacios amid increased geopolitical tension and training in Micronesia. Regional correspondent Tomas Manglona reports.
We wanted to make sure the governor was fully aware of the exercises that we're planning to do.
Joint Region Marianas meeting with CNMI Governor Arnold Palacios on Saipan to discuss increased activity in the region.
And have a better understanding of how our forces in Guam can springboard from there to go to other places and come to the CNMI in defense of the CNMI if necessary, but obviously to do training, which is what we do quite a bit of.
The visit also comes amid the governor's pivot away from the China market and his ask of the military to support the CNMI financially as a result.
The governor asked me if we could have some more ships visit Saipan, and we're looking at that. And I can't give you the specifics, but I think we've got some things lined up here for not too far in the future.
But that increased interest has also led to community concerns about environmental and cultural impact.
For the military exercises, we go through an extremely extensive process to ensure that we minimize any impact to the environment. On the tourism side, I will tell you we emphasize all the time with our military members and their families that are based out of Guam that when they visit a place, the only thing they should leave behind is their footsteps.
Tomas Manglonia, KUAM News, Saipan.
1 week left until the deadline to sign the lease for federal property at Eagles Field, the planned site for the billion-dollar medical complex. We spoke today with Admiral Benjamin Nicholson during a visit to Saipan, who says legal teams from the military and the governor are reviewing the lease, which Attorney General Douglas Moylan last Friday declined to sign.
Right now, what I can tell you is that lawyers from the governor's team and lawyers from the military are working on going through the different parts and pieces of the lease as it's written to see if some of the things that the Attorney General brought up, if those things can be resolved.
Moylan raised concerns over the lack of legislative overview of lease funding amid the prospect of the military taking over the hospital during emergency situations. Meanwhile, should the governor want to extend the deadline, she's going to have to make that request to the Pentagon.
Well, it's not up to me. That happens at the Department of the Navy, and so if she asks, it depends on where we are in the process. But she would not ask that of me. I'm just the conveyor of that message.
Original landowners have called for the return of their property, but Nicholson says the military does not consider it excess, and if the lease is not signed, the Navy will use the land for other mission-critical requirements. Well, how could animal control step in to aid people bitten by dogs? The question resurfacing after a Hoggett woman and her pet were attacked while out on a walk in the village. Here's more.
What course of action could animal control take after a Hoggett woman and her pup were attacked by 2 dogs in the neighborhood, along with similar cases? The vicious animals are also pets. Territorial veterinarian Dr. Mariana Turner at the helm of animal control, telling us aggressive attacks like these are at the top of the division's priorities.
Anytime a dog bites a human and breaks skin, causes bleeding, we do have to do what's called a bite hold, a 10-day bite hold.
The process includes monitoring the animal in quarantine to ensure it does not present signs of rabies, an effort to keep the island free of the virus. Officials then perform a behavioral assessment on the animal.
I will go out and do a behavioral assessment, and I take in information of the circumstances of the bite, the severity of the bite, how bad is the wound, and then also the assessment of the animal itself when I go there to see it. How is it behaving?
From there, Turner adds that it's up to how animal owners want to proceed, especially if they recognize their animal may be dangerous.
And then we can determine from there whether or not this is an animal that's safe to return back into the community or not safe to return to the community. When they're not safe to return to the community, unfortunately, the outcome is euthanasia, but that's for public safety.
Meanwhile, she says animal control is working actively to rectify issues like this, in addition to the island's overwhelming stray dog issue, even with limited resources. She's encouraging all animal attacks to be reported immediately.
We can talk about ways that we can at least avoid situations or prevent them from happening in the future. And then again, if they've bitten and broken skin, that is our highest priority call.
For more information about animal health, contact Animal Control at 671-300-7966 or 7964, or email quarantine@doag.guam.gov and gain after-hours emergency number at 671-988-1615.
The Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission took a moment to remember an important member. The commission is tasked with reviewing Guam's criminal codes of Guam and criminal procedure codes since their creation by the 13th Guam legislature in 1976. During their meeting this week, Magistrate Judge Jonathan Kwan, Elizabeth Barrett Anderson, and Complier of Laws Jerry Cepeda shared words for the late Department of Corrections Director Robert Camacho. Camacho was on the subcommission on drug and other criminal offenses.
Director Camacho assembled a an internal DOC team to help guide the review by DOC of statutes relating to the corrections department. His team members actively participate in working sessions and discussions. His leadership was invaluable. Although he will be missed, we are confident in his team members and Acting Director Joseph Carbolito. If I could ask for a brief moment of silence to remember Bob.
We really feel the loss of Director Camacho. He was an important member. He was dedicated to corrections and to the idea of rehabilitation. I spoke with Major Uggan. They're feeling the loss, I'm sure, even more keenly at the department.
He was a great help in our work to modernize and to take the whole guts of the DOC statute and to bring it to the 21st century. So a lot of work has gone into it. I want to commend Bob's staff.
The commission vowed to continue the work of Camacho in his honor. It's Easter weekend, and on this Good Friday, residents in the Northern Marianas woke up early for the annual trek up Mount Tapachu, the island's faithful, seen in this video carrying up a wooden cross which they will erect at the summit. Some residents starting the trek as early as 6 in the morning. The cross was brought over at 5 a.m. from the Mount Carmel Cathedral in Chalancanoa. Parishioners on Tinian and Rhoda held their own similar events this Holy Week. And now for a look at your world at home. Here's a view captured of the Guam sign down at Tumon Bay.
Don't need to work, babe, keep the smile on your face. The moments you can't replace, and I'll be around. Whoa. You can count on me. You can count on me for life.
Wherever life takes you, we're always here for you. Calvo's Insurance. Count on us for life.
KUAM Sports is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Handball, welcome to KUAM Sports. Now to our partners with Clutch Guam, bringing us the final score. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
KUAM Sports is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Honey, do you want some milk?
Do you ever wonder how your favorite products make their way into your local stores? Most arrive on state-of-the-art Matson vessels that transport containers of food, household items, equipment, and supplies into the islands every week. Because we know that you depend on us, we work closely with our partners to ensure that our shipments arrive on time, all the time, so you can find your favorite products when you need them. We transport the region's most precious cargo that supports successful businesses and promotes a better quality of life for our families. Matson is proud to have been the hometown shipping carrier for Guam, the CNMI, and Micronesia for the past 25 years, and you can count on us to be here for generations to come.
I'm driving through Slingstone. I want my coffee fix. Woo!
Feed Me Fridays is brought to you by Devondale, real milk from free grazing cows.
Slingstone, baby. Let's go. Coffee fix. Chee! I want something on ice, but not blended though. Hi, can I grab the Hog and White? Of course. Thank you. Hell yeah.
Hi, I'm Jade at the Adeloop Slingstone. I'm going to be making the Hog and White with the Devondale milk. Okay, we're going to put 1 pump of the white mocha, 1 pump caramel. I'm going to go over here, pull 2 shots. We're going to be getting our Devondale milk. So, mix it a little. Add some milk. And spill it over. And then we have the Hog and White with the Devondale milk.
Thank you. Bye. Howdy guys, Feed Me Fridays. I got my drink. It's the Hog and White from Slingstone. We stopped by the Anigua location, check it out, and man, why not? I was craving something not blended. I always kind of like mine on ice. So Hog and White, let's see, let's go give her a go. Oh my God. So the creaminess from the coffee, the white chocolate, and then Devondale, man, this is my next go. This is my new go-to right now. All right, something fast, something to get me on my feet, get my energy on, you know what I'm saying? Chee! All right, well, that pretty much wraps up another, wow. Delicious drink, again, always from our friends over at Slingstone, and of course, you gotta thank Devondale. And then that pretty much wraps up another episode, another segment of Feed Me Friday. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Chee!
Feed Me Fridays is brought to you by Devondale, real milk from free grazing cows.
So many happenings in this part of the world, and here to tell us all about it is Jason Salas.
Thanks, guys, and Hafa everybody. Jason Salas here with your News Bites, a good round of stories on this very Good Friday. First off, rediscover the depths of our island abundance is a theme to the 14th UOG Conference on Island Sustainability. It starts on the 11th through the 15th at the Hyatt. Register at uog.edu/CIS 2023 and enjoy panels, workshops, and speakers preparing the region for a greener future. Next Wednesday, the public, meaning you and I, are wholeheartedly invited to a community night at the Hyatt Regency Guam, speaking of the Hyatt, at the Grand Ballroom from 4 to 7:30 to celebrate the Conference on Island Sustainability. There will be vendors, free food, seed talks, live entertainment, and much more. On Saturday, April the 8th, that would be tomorrow at the Micronesia Mall Center Court, enjoy Easter Fest. All the fun begins at 1 in the afternoon, and there will be arts and crafts, a magic show, face painting, and so much more. The Easter Bunny, I hear, may make a cameo appearance. And also on Saturday, and this is at 9 in the morning, you want to be at the Manila Mayor's office because that's Central Village. We'll have their Easter egg hunt at the Kids Park for kids 10 and below. There will be appearances by the Easter Bunny himself, as well as Clifford the Big Red Dog. So you got the Easter Bunny and Clifford the Big Red Dog. Please go down to Manila and have some fun there. Thanks also to Mayor Alan Ungakta, always bringing the fun. That is News Bites, everybody. We are each and every day on weekdays on the hotspot, 11 a.m. Peacock, YouTube, Facebook, KUAM TV 8. Please have yourself a wonderful Easter.
Now time for your Cold Stone Creamery Birthday Club shoutouts submitted on KUAM.com. And plus, it's Friday. We announced this week's winner of a yummy Cold Stone Creamery ice cream cake.
All right, everybody, on this rainy Friday, we are not letting the precipitation dampen the spirits of today's birthday celebrant. So, happy birthday and sunshine to Nicole Justine Espanol Mercer. Happy birthday, blessings to Kiki. Love and miss you plenty, says a very proud and loving familia. Amelia and Zoe Pakaigui, 5 years of double blessings, 5 years of double smarts, and 5 years of double everything. That's nice. Happy birthday to our biggest, littlest fans of Team KUAM. Oh, thank you. They said the Twinkies. They say they love us and watch us. And you know what? Shout out to the Twinkies. Hi, you guys. From all of us here in Harmon. KUAM loves you guys. Amelia and Zoe, we love you, Twinkles, and we celebrate you every single day. Thank you so much. Man, that made our day, and we hope we've made this an extra special birthday for you. And we hope it's an extra special extended birthday for Jadison Ray Kitachai Pangolin, who is our birthday club ice cream cake winner this week. And look at this adorable picture. Absolutely. We are so pleased to make this a wonderful birthday for you. And remember, this is an extra Easter present. So maybe you'll have the ice cream cake in your Easter basket, but make sure you share it with your friends because don't let it melt. All right. But we hope that Jadison's family is waiting for our phone call when we'll let you know when you can pick up your prize. Happy birthday to one and all.
And that's your Primetime Show. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Destiny Cruz. Stay safe and have a great night.
KUAM News Hotspot is brought to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Growing tensions between the U.S. and China, especially over Taiwan, have seen both sides engaged in high-profile showcasing of their respective military might. But a recent in-depth report by Reuters reveals that there's also mounting friction that's out of view. The report suggests that subsea cables are now central to a U.S.-China tech war. Reuters cites data indicating that there are more than 400 cables carrying over 95% of all international internet traffic. And according to the report, in the past 4 years, the U.S. government has managed to tip the scales against China's top subsea company Huawei in at least 6 deals in the Asia-Pacific region. This includes a proposed cable connecting the Federated States of Micronesia, Nauru, and Kiribati. The potential for undersea cables to also be drawn into a conflict between China and Taiwan was brought into focus last month when cables connecting Taiwan with its Matson Islands were cut. Taiwanese authorities stopped short, though, of accusing Beijing of deliberate sabotage. Coming up, we talk with Russ Matulich, the founder of subsea cable company RTI, about the critical importance of the industry and the potential implications for Guam and the Marianas in the battle for dominance between the U.S. and China. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Hub. I'm Nestor Lecanto, and I'm pleased to welcome our guest this week. He's Russ Matulich. He is the CEO of RTI, and Russ is here to talk to us about the extent of subsea cables in the region and the globe, and how that's now, according to a very well-done article by Reuters, the central piece in the U.S.-China tech war. Russ, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nestor. Half a day.
Half a day. Before we get into all that stuff, I wanted to maybe give you an opportunity to kind of set the table here and talk a little bit about your background and experience in the undersea cable industry.
Certainly. Thank you for the opportunity, first of all. Subsea cables have been part of my life for almost 3 decades, and RTI Cable builds, owns, and operates Asia's largest neutral network. The audience may not know that less than 1 cable per year is built across the Pacific, and in the last 10 years, a total of 6 have been built. RTI built 3. All 3 land in Guam. So we operate about 33,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, and my background is on building, owning, and operating them. And prior to starting this company about 10 years ago exactly in March, I was head of Asia for the world's largest subsea cable builder at that time called Tyco Telecom.
Yeah, a lot of people, because it's out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, may not understand the extent and importance of subsea cables to the regional and global economy. So please share with us.
Well, they're getting much more popular these days, that's for certain. I've been a big advocate for Guam over the years, big advocate for subsea cables. And it's very simple at the high level. Subsea cables are all about trade, education, communication, and national security. So they accelerate commercial trade. Without a cable, you don't have an economy. In terms of education, research and education can be done much more rapidly, much more efficiently. You're reaching out to, in the case of the island nations, to make quality of life better. National security is essential to everyone, and we can talk about some examples as to why. I think Guam would be very familiar with the 2017 cut of the Guam Saipan cable, and it put Saipan into the dark ages. I happened to be on Guam when that happened. Subsea cables are deemed critical infrastructure by the Office of the United States President, and they are very well protected. So I hope that sums it up.
Yeah, and I think Guam, as you mentioned, you've laid 3 cables to Guam as a landing, and Guam is growing as a landing spot for these transnational cables, if that's the correct.
Transoceanic or trans-Pacific, but we can call them cables if you like.
All right. Yeah. And talk about Guam, and it's a strategic location. I think that's one of the things about Guam. It's a strategic location, not just for cables, but it has been militarily too.
Yeah, well, Guam was pretty amazing. I met a few companies there, Docomo Pacific and GTA and IT&E. So I'm well familiar with Guam. I've had the privilege of meeting the former governor, meeting the current governor, Governor Liu. So I'm super grateful that RTI has been given the opportunity to operate our business there. But in terms of Guam, I always looked at it this way. Guam is geographically perfect, as I like to put it, in between Japan, Australia, and then a gateway to Asia. So geographically perfect, geopolitically neutral somewhat, right? But it's based on U.S. law and therefore the rule of law. It has rule of law, which is essential for any cable. And then has infrastructure. You can't own and operate a cable unless you can depend that once you land that cable will be well looked after by the government. So those are really the key categories for Guam in particular. The reason why we put Guam first is, Guam was, of course, important. The big routes are Japan and then to the U.S. directly, and then Australia to the U.S. And we thought Guam was an efficient way to bring more business to Asia through what I call a diverse route. So we're number one and the number 2 routes. And one thing I'd add, Nestor, is that the thing about transporting critical data, 99% of all of the world's internet goes over fiber optic cables. Every day somebody uses a fiber optic cable, they just don't know it. And the thing about subsea cables is, in Guam in particular, is on a per capita basis, Guam has more cables landed than any other country or island nation on the world. So you have $3 billion of cables that are already landed and operating, and you have about $2.5 billion of cables that are mostly connected there, but still not turned up. And it remains to be seen how long it will take to turn those cables up.
Yeah, and when we talk about landing cable, there's literally a process for laying the cables undersea, and that would seem to me to be a very complex process.
I think I compared it to watching a sea turtle documentary one time, in that the sea turtles are born, they're under the sand, and at the break of dawn they all race, maybe 100 of them race to the water, and they get picked off by the by the seagulls and along the way, and maybe out of that 100, one makes it. And I would say those are probably the odds of getting a subsea cable done and completed, because it's not just about having a good idea. Everybody's got good ideas. And it's not just about drawing a line between point A to point B. Anybody can draw a line. It takes, well, as I like to put it, money doesn't build cables. Money is the least important of the 4 or 5 things that you have to do. Money doesn't build cables, people do. It's the relationships that get these things done.
All right. On that note, we will take a quick break, Russ, and when we come back, we'll talk about what we mentioned earlier and how the subsea cables are now central to the U.S.-China tech war. We'll be right back.
Are you up to date with your COVID-19 vaccines and boosters? Getting a COVID-19 vaccine, even after you've recovered from a COVID infection, provides added protection against the virus and protects you from getting seriously ill and being hospitalized. The CDC recommends that all eligible persons stay up to date with their COVID-19 vaccines and boosters per their recommendations. Get the booster for protection. Remember, prevention saves lives.
All right, and so we're back with Russ Matulich, who is the CEO of RTA, a cable laying company internationally. Russ, one of the reasons I asked you to come on the show is a great article by Reuters, an expansive article. It talks about how subsea cables are now central to the U.S.-China tech war. I'm wondering, first of all, what are your general thoughts on that?
That's the article by Mr. Brock, I take it, Joe Brock.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he did an excellent job. I think he did an excellent job. I'll put it that way.
All right. And what are your thoughts on that, though? And if you can elaborate further on, what the article was talking about, or how these cables are critical concern, particularly in the Pacific region.
Well, yeah, as I mentioned before, subsea cables are critical to any nation's digital security. And, without a cable, you don't have an economy. And so the United States is concerned about enemies, foreign and domestic. I'm not picking on China. I think Mr. Brock did an excellent job. And I think in the case of Mr. Brock's article, looked at a lot at the trade issues, really, with a Chinese-backed state entity versus a U.S. company, which is more of a trade issue with potential security implications down the road. And I think he did a phenomenal job laying that out. He also the article also talked about the tech wars, and I consider them tech and trade wars, and that's really what they are, because I think a few of us, the small community of maybe a few dozen of us that help shape the world's internet, it's or how it's carried anyway. It is, it's really excellent to see that the general public is gaining a knowledge of how subsea cables work and operate, because we talked earlier, getting them built is very difficult. The average cable takes about 7 years to get built. I think maybe 1 out of 100 make it over the finish line. And the people that build them are extraordinary. The engineers, you probably never met one. They're the ones that do all the work and get the least amount of credit. And it's the only industry I know, by the way, that you have to apply for the permit to begin with, and then you spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and at the end of that, you hope that you get the permit approved. But back to Mr. Brock's article, he also did an excellent job of stating how complex these cables are, and the impact that they'll have on security. I think in his article, he mentioned the State Department or USTDR had reached out to help sort of seal the deal. And, that also is very helpful. It's not uncommon. When I was building cables in a commercial role at Tyco, I traveled on a U.S. trade mission to China, and we built a cable between China called TPE cable, which has been up since 2008. And that one it took a lot of state help to do that, USTDR, and I traveled with U.S. Ambassador to China, and then also with the Secretary of Commerce. So that was a big deal back then. It's a big deal now. I think what makes these things more important now is it's essential to a nation's not just trade anymore, but security. And that's really what Mr. Brock made clear to the general public.
Right. And also, I think, and maybe you could elaborate on this. A lot of these cable projects involve multinational ties, right? Different nations kind of getting into the project, and so because it will benefit them as well as the other countries that they need to communicate with. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Well, first of all, there's a direct correlation between GDP and a number of cables connected to a country. And it's not a chicken and egg thing. The more bigger economy you have, the more cables you're going to attract. So to have a cable land on your island, on your country, in your nation, brings tremendous economic benefit, billions and billions of dollars. Very hard to measure, but if you look at the way that the subsea cables work, it's a lot like the airlines. It's the same way. The same way you transport data, critical data, is the same way you transport people. You hop on an airplane, you go to another location, you get off that location, you go to another airline. In this case, I live in San Francisco. I'm taking a plane to Guam, and then I want to go to Japan, so I changed from United to Asia Air. So that's the way that that's the way that subsea cables transport data. I think. In terms of the criticality of subsea cables, I think there's too few resources to build so many. Only maybe one or two get completed per year, transoceanic cables. And in the case of these big cables, they're consortium cables. So it's like the United Nations. You have to have unanimous agreement by, in the case of the CME cable, I think it was maybe 12 different entities. And it's very difficult because you got geopolitical differences, you've got cultural differences, religious, you got everything that makes a cable difficult is exemplified, and in terms of how complex it can be. So I would say you need a like a United Nations broker like Kofi Annan was when he was head of the UN. He was bringing everybody together for a common goal and a common good, and that's what makes these cables so complex. And I would add that there's a new component to it, and Mr. Brock pointed it out, and that is that the security component. When you're connecting a cable, governments have the ability to, they govern what lands. It's sovereign territory, so they control what happens with that cable once it lands. As much as other countries would like to think it's their sovereign nation, it may not be. It lands in somebody else's yard. It's on their property. You have to obey their rules. And so I think the concern may be that some countries may be putting different types of malware, spyware, and things like that. I'm not an authority on that, so I wouldn't know, but I know that that's a concern for sure.
Yeah, and that's one of the primary focuses of that article that we're referencing is the number of attacks, maybe, or vulnerabilities and damage that has and more often now to these very important cables. What's your take on that?
Well, that would be interrupting communications is harmful to everyone. So you have all types of things that can happen. Although I've told stories that there are people that believe that you can put certain types of spyware on cables. You can't interrupt a cable without the cable owner knowing that somebody is cut under the water. And so really what it is, it's more about things happening when they're on land. And they're not always, they're not always hackers or spies or foreign entities. Some of it's just general bad luck or a bad card or bad software. That's taken down a lot of different companies. So it's hard to speculate when there's, because I know there's been some recent outages in Guam, and I think it was it Docomo? Docomo Pacific was having, and the thing about Docomo, it's an outstanding company run by Rod Boss is a great CEO, and they're a Japanese entity. So in terms of the quality integrity of network architecture, I would say nobody's better than Docomo on Guam, so it's difficult to know what I'm not close to the issues there, but it could have been anything. And I would say that sometimes it's a foreign entity or a disruptor or somebody just wants to make trouble, and sometimes it's just bad luck.
All right. So on that note, we'll take another quick break and be back to talk about things a little bit closer to home here in the Western Pacific. We'll be right back.
The wait is over, Guam. The all-new state-of-the-art car wash is now open at Cars Plus. Introducing Finish Line Express, open 7 days a week. The all-new cashless drive-through car wash is also the largest car wash on island that can accommodate vehicles such as lifted Jeeps and full-size pickup trucks. Just roll up, pick a wash, and roll through. Plus, power vacuums are available to clean the interior. Show your vehicle some love today at the all-new car wash at Cars Plus in Mighty. Open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week.
Okay, we're back, and before the break, we were talking about a little bit more of the implications for Guam and the Marianas and Micronesia, and what are the impacts, do you think, of what's going on maybe between China and the U.S.? Are there any implications for Guam and the Western Pacific?
Well, let's talk about the economic implications first. When the cable outage happened between Guam and Saipan in 2017, everything was out. The airports were out, welfare services, state services, hospitals, couldn't land a plane. You went to the ATM, they told you you didn't exist. So without a cable, you don't have anything because everything runs on the global economy. So the implication of not having connectivity for CNMI and the Pacific Island nations is significant. There's tremendous downside. We work very closely with the research and education community headed up by University of Hawaii and University of Guam locally, and they do an outstanding job in terms of education, putting education out to the island nations with organizations called PIRIN, which I think is Pacific Island Research Network. But to the larger question, what are the security implications? Well, with as I mentioned before, Guam's strategically important geographically, among other things, and the other U.S. People in the services on Guam. It's one of the larger bases, I think, in terms of housing people. But the being that close to the Pacific corridor with access to ships and access to airs is very helpful. It's very helpful to our trade. It's very helpful to our military. It's very helpful to the government of the United States. Without presence, I think Guam would be worse off. I know there's always good and bad to everything, but I think overall that the U.S. government's presence on Guam has been very helpful to Guam and very helpful to the region. So I think having Guam be the hub, and Guam is a hub. It's one of 3 hubs between the United States and the rest of Asia. It's one of 3 hubs between 4 or 5 billion people and the United States, and so it's just Japan, Guam, and Australia, and the second most important hub in all of Asia. And maybe all the world right now is Guam. So I think the security implications are super obvious. Without having Guam, be the responsible manager and custodian of these cables would be a challenge for the United States, for the United States economy, and for our U.S. efforts in the Asia Pacific region.
Yeah, you mentioned Docomo and the apparent, I don't know if it was a cyber attack or some kind of hacking, and it also happened at the Guam Memorial Hospital right around the same time, or shortly before, which the FBI is investigating. And I don't think subsea cables may necessarily be implicated in this, but are there some vulnerabilities with the subsea cables that are very important to Guam?
Well, if I knew of them, I probably wouldn't mention them. But the vulnerabilities don't lie in the subsea cables themselves. I mean, anything built by humans is going to have some misgivings, right? But I think that when you own and operate a cable, with all cables, you have to know, who are your partners, and what are their backgrounds? Can you rely on them? Will they execute when the time is needed? Because it's not just these upcoming potential trade war issues or cybersecurity or spying. It's also force majeure, earthquakes, typhoons. Guam's well familiar with inclement weather. So you need people you can trust on the ground that will look after your assets. Because the funny thing about cables, you've got $200 million of assets going under the ocean, and it stays pretty stable under the ocean. When it gets on land and touched by humans, that's when you have the problem. So you need somebody, it's the most vulnerable part of a $200-some-odd million asset. You have to have people that know what they're doing and have good connections and that you can trust.
All right. On that note, Russ, we're going to take one real short break and be back to wrap up the show. Please stay with us.
Guam's auto appearance specialist, Elegant Reflections, has been providing the automotive industry with professional detailing and car care products at its highest quality, from complete detailing, full interior detailing, exterior detailing, headlamp restoration, hand washing, seat and carpet shampoo, engine degreasing, undercarriage cleaning, paint sealant, fabric protection, paint oxidation removal, and so much more. Visit us at our new location. Call 646-5555 for an appointment. Elegant Reflections, Guam's auto appearance specialist, over 20 years of experience.
All right, we're back with Rex Matulich, who is the CEO of RTI, a global cable company. Finally, Rex, I just wanted to get your thoughts on going forward in terms of global data and communications and how subsea cables fit into that. What are your expectations? What can you shed light on for our viewers about where that's headed?
In terms of improvement of the quality of life,
sure.
I think there's a few different aspects. One is the acceleration of research and education. When you have these research organizations that collaborate, and they have big pipes that can connect and analyze data, they can accelerate that analysis from everything from robotics to AI, and so they can do 10,000 times more research in a much shorter span of time, and that will do everything from helping to cure some diseases to help resolving some things with terms of nature and pollution and all the things that continue to plague mankind. So that's great. The research and education community has access to big pipes now, and they can do a lot more studying, a lot more research very, very quickly. Another component is in terms of Chad's going to be a big deal, and in fact, it's a threat to these companies. And I think Elon Musk is genius for throwing it out there, because it's not just the yellow pages, on the internet. Chad's all about doing some heavy analysis and thinking. Now, it's still built by humans, so it's still fallible, and I'm not expert at it by any stretch. But what I am interested in watching is seeing the development of that, and because what you have with just data, static data, is you can get information, but what about the learning? What about accelerating critical thinking? The thing that the challenges today are development of critical thinking skills and abilities in a very complicated environment. So I think that Chad will not hurt that. There are people that believe that it's going to hurt that. I think it'll help it because the minds that use them will have to be able to think more creatively in terms of what they're going to use Chad for, right? But so I think look for accelerated and improved education, because we have to do education differently than we do it now. And in terms of leveling the playing field, the other thing that Elon Musk did, and I give him credit for, is creating a fight. I don't want to say anything stronger than that, between the engineers and the entrepreneurs and the big companies. All the innovation, much of the innovation, is coming from the individuals, the entrepreneurs, and the engineers. And so I think they can live anywhere and do anything. You don't have to be, in downtown Tokyo or downtown San Francisco or in Silicon Valley. You can be anywhere and develop anything. And you, thanks to the internet and more accelerated subsea cables, you have access to tons of education. Or tons of data at your fingertips. You just have to know how to critically analyze it. So I think it's look for more development of more interesting things. You're at the end of a development stage when the only new thing coming up on your iPhone is the color. That really doesn't matter, right? If you talk to people and they're looking at different phones. I'm not picking on any one company, but the color isn't an innovation. So I think true innovation comes from the small entrepreneurs. So that's what I'm excited to and hopeful and really interested in watching. And we do a lot of incubation of here at RTI of the entrepreneurial community, because we level the playing field for them. And I think that's another thing is we're leveling the playing field. The acceleration of new cables will level the playing field But you have to be careful. We have to be careful as a society. There are the cables that control the content, and that's a business model. And there are other private cables, neutral cables like us, and we don't have we don't carry content. We're the Switzerland of bandwidth, right? We just transport data from point A to point B the same way that an airplane does. So there has to be some. We, as a public, generally speaking, we should keep an eye on making sure that we are ensuring private cables. Without private cables, there is no great internet. You have to let data move, and when you're the owner of a cable and you're owner of content, you're the one that controls which data comes out first. And as a neutral cable owner or private cable owner, we're just transporting the data. So I would say that if there's a healthy mix of cables built, private and public, collaboration, partnership, you'll see better trade, education, communication. You'll see more interesting products and services, and acceleration of research and education. And hopefully, our countries can get along just a little bit better, so that we can focus more on making people's lives better and less on trying to go to war with each other.
Yeah, and as you say, the subsea cables provide the kind of the highway for that. And it's interesting that you mentioned ChatGPT, because we just did a show on that last week. And once AI opened up that open source and made it available to millions and millions of people, which hundreds and millions of people are now, and that's where the innovation is. Like you say, I mean, individuals are going to come up with ideas on how to capitalize on that, and hopefully it's mostly for good. There might be some bad, so that's where the regulators will come in. But yeah, that's the opening up a whole new world, and the exponential growth of that is just amazing. So
yeah, I didn't see that. Please send that to me when afterwards. That's great.
Will do. Thank you so much. Russ Matalich is the CEO of RTI. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, sir.